everyone, and welcome to this very first edition of A Mad Belgian, a podcast about this mad world and how it makes people, me included, increasingly mad. A weekly mix of stories, news and encounters broadcasted to you from a fairly big room in a very tiny country. Hope you enjoy it. So, this week has been fun. I randomly met an ex-printer who turned out to also be an ex-cocaine and heroin addict and an ex-convict. Yes, that happens even in Brussels. He was lovely though, and we ended up talking for a couple of hours about life, freedom, love and relationships. All his picks. I didn't think I was quite drunk enough for these heavy topics. A long conversation that gave me a little more insight into how humans work and served as yet another proof, if proof was needed, that when it comes down to it, everyone's facing pretty much the same questions and difficulties. I also had a slightly awkward encounter with a beggar who was asking for money to buy beer. Nothing extraordinary so far. I liked his honesty and gave him a couple of quids, at which point he opened his bag and offered me a very large box of sushi, almost untouched, as a thank you. It was probably worth 10 times the money I'd just given him. He looked disappointed when I declined, and I was left feeling awkwardly guilty for not taking food away from this homeless man. How absurd is that? On a more serious note, I also spent quite some time listening to the news this week and spotted a couple of key stories that might have escaped your attention. First, beer. A team of American scientists is currently working on how to make beer in space. A few years ago, an Australian group had already created a beer for space called Vostok, a typically Australian name. That is a beer designed to be drunk in weightlessness, which raised a few questions already, because a beer drunk in weightlessness doesn't obediently stay at the bottom of the glass, I suppose. So does it just fly around? And does the foam stay on top or end up on the bottom? And imagine these poor astronauts finally settling down after a long day in space, opening their beer bottle and having to chase it floating all around the cockpit in order to drink it. Cruel invention indeed. But this is different. These American scientists want to brew a beer in space, then bring it back to Earth to drink it. I, for one, was relieved to know that despite all the Trump stories, the wars, the walls, and the climate change talks, some people managed to keep calm and focus on what really matters. Another news that might have escaped your attention is that a 105-year-old man recently broke a world record. He validated a record of the longest distance cycled in an hour by a man over 100 years of age. At first, I must say, I didn't really get it, but then it hit me. This could be a great way to counteract the general moroseness of our overly competitive societies. We should organize hundreds, thousands of contests all the time, but with extremely specific categories. For example, I would be quite happy to take part in a contest for a 28-and-a-half-year-old Belgian saxophonist who also plays trombone, juggle and can solve the Rubik's Cube. I'm pretty confident I could win that. And similarly, we could organize thousands or even millions of super specific contests, roughly one a person. That way everyone could win at least once, get at least one medal, 1 minute of glory, a few seconds of feeling like a true winner, and the world would be a slightly happier place. That led me to look at the Guinness Book of Records, looking for potential contest ideas. And once again, I took the measure of how mental the world we live in is. No wonder people like Trump win elections and extremisms are going up. No wonder things aren't going too well. How could it work when there are people in this world whose life project is to put on hundreds of t-shirts, one above the other? World record so far, 227. To practice crushing as many eggs as possible in 1 minute with their forehead. World record so far, 80. Or to resist the hardest possible kick in the groin. There's also that man who spent 16 years of his life, 16 years, typing every single number from 1 to 1 million on a typewriter. No copy-paste option there. Now you'll tell me that these are mere exceptions, but that's forgetting the thousands who failed to break these records, but still practiced. The man who only managed to put on 200 t-shirts at once, or the man who had to stop after crushing 75 eggs. The hundreds who are probably practicing being kicked in the groin regularly on the off chance that they might one day get a medal for it. This is what people spend their life doing. It's madness gone mad. In this condition, how could things get better? Now, this isn't a rhetorical question. If you do have answers or ideas on how to make things better in this crazy world, please email me at amadbelgium@gmail.com. We'll end on a more poetic note as I close this very first edition of A Mad Belgian with a little poem, A Node to a Gourd, written a few weeks ago as a eulogy to my water bottle, who had accompanied me on so many great adventures as I cycled around the UK on my fold-up bike, and that sadly got stolen from me. Here we go. My dearest companion, I didn't realize when I decided to bring you to that cursed Wednesday run that it would be the last time that I set my eyes on you, darling travel partner in old cloudy Britain. Oh, the glorious trips, the thrilling lows and heights, the wonder inspired by the ever-changing horizon, the many encounters, the fascinating lives, the unforgettable memories we share are legion. This is all over now. To other shores you sailed. An evil mind has stolen you, a malignant magpie. Cherished water bottle, it is true, I did fail to protect you. Now you're gone and I am left to cry. But I shall not be stopped. I will follow new trails. To the sweet taste of adventure, I shall not say goodbye. I'll go around the world and tell people the tales of all the escapades we had, you, my Brompton and I. This closes this first edition of A Mad Belgian. If you'd like to comment on the podcast, do send me an email at amadbelgian@gmail.com. I love receiving them. Thank you for listening, and until next time. That's it! If you've enjoyed this show, please share it on Twitter and Facebook. You also find more stories, reflections and poems on my blog, www.jenniferlgamel.org. And if you really enjoyed it, well, please support me by hitting the donate button on my website, or become a regular supporter of the show and the blog by visiting my Patreon page. Even the smallest donation makes a difference, so please do help me keep this project going and growing. Bye!